Hello friends, welcome to Mule 4 Learn from D series of videos. Today we are going to discuss about exposing and consuming SOAP web services, and also we will see how to validate any SOAP request before doing any kind of processing of that request. Also we will see what is WSDL and what are the things included there and how it actually works. This is the picture of the implementation of what we are actually trying to achieve here using Mule. Okay, so as part of scenarios, I have mentioned exposing SOAP web service, how to expose SOAP web service using Mule 4, and also we will see how to consume SOAP web service, and this scenario 3 and 4 I have already mentioned. So as part of this demonstration, I will show you how to create a SOAP web service using Eclipse, which is a very common IDE which you use mostly for Java related coding and other purposes, right? So let's directly go to the actual coding part. So here I have already developed one SOAP service, that is the calculator SOAP service. I have developed it myself for this demonstration purpose. So what you have to do is, like, it is very simple. So from any Eclipse IDE, if you go to new and just you need to select dynamic web project. Okay, so if you select dynamic web project, then it will give you some window this and here you have to give your project name, and also you have to mention the target runtime, that is I have mentioned it Apache Tomcat version 9 here. And then once you give the project name, and then you have to click next. Just default setting you have to select, and then once you click finish, then your project will be created. And then you have to come here at the Java source resources folder, and then you have to come to this src folder where you have to mention your Java package name. So once you right click there, and you have to select package, and you have to give the package name. So I have given the package name as DigiWorld.learning.org, and here as you can see I have just created one Java class. So just if you select the package and just select class, then it will allow you to create a Java class. So let's have a look into my Java class. So this is a very simple Java class which I have taken. Only two operations I have mentioned: addition and multiplication. Both of these operations are taking two parameters as input, and based on the operation it is performing the calculation, right? So after you add the Java class, and once it is this class logic, whatever you have you want to mention, once this is done, you need to just right click on this Java project, the dynamic web project which you have created, and then you have to click new, and then you have to select others, and here you have to select this web service. If you don't find, then you have to type it, and then you have to select the web service under this web services folder. Okay, so this one you have to select. So once you select this, it will give and if you click next, then it will give you this window, and here you have to just from this browse button, you have to just select your class which you have created, right? So you have to this will be the total absolute path name of that class. That is, as you can see, it is package dot the class name, right? And then from this left side you have to drag this bar to the top. Okay, so these two bars, this can be adjusted, so you can just adjust this to the top level. Okay, and once you click next, then you have to follow the windows, and you have to click next, and then finish. Once you do that, it will automatically generate the SOAP service for this, and then it will also deploy the SOAP service to your Tomcat server. Okay, so this is I actually wanted to show you how you can use Eclipse IDE to create any kind of SOAP service using our Java class. Okay, so this is how we can do. See, this here, if you see, we have two things. One is the calculator SOAP service, that is basically we have just seen like how to create this one. And in case of client, if you want to as we followed the screens, so as part of that process only, this client will also be created, and then it will automatically be created, and then if you wish, you can also add that to the server for the deployment. Okay, so that is how we can do that. And once it is deployed, as you can see, we can basically select add or remove, and from here, as you can see, these two I have already deployed. Okay, so now what I will do is like I will try to test how if our service is working or not. Okay, so what I will do is I will go to SOAP UI, and here if you can see, I have mentioned this URL, that is the basically the Eclipse, that Tomcat URL basically, where my service is deployed. And as you can see, it is the port number is 8080. So now if I just change this number, suppose I make it as 80. So now if I just hit, if you see, the result is coming as expected, right? So now we are sure that our service, whatever we have developed using Eclipse, that is working as per our expectation, right? So now let's move ahead and we will see how to consume this web service using Mule. Okay, using Mule 4 we want to consume this web service, and also we want to expose the same service using Mule 4 in the. Okay, so for that what we need is the WSDL. Okay, so as you can see, this was the service URL for my service which I deployed to Tomcat. So this is the service URL. So if we just copy this URL, and if we just go to any browser, and if we mention it here and just put question mark WSDL, then if we do that, then it will give us the WSDL file, right? So this is the WSDL file. So let's see what are the things available there in WSDL. So for first and foremost, we need to go down and we need to see that, so this is the service URL which is mentioned in the WSDL. So WSDL is basically the definition of the service. Okay, so it is a kind of service contract which provides the service name, also the port. So this is the service name, okay, and this is the port. Okay, and also the schema, it actually refers, I mean it provides us the information about the schema. So as you can see, this is addition response, this is addition request. So here, as you can see, this is the kind of details which are present inside WSDL. Also, if you need more details about this, you can refer to the any website or any information which is available, easily available there in internet. And also regarding this Eclipse part which I have just explained, so you can also get these details easily over internet in any site. If you just search like how to develop a SOAP service using Eclipse, you can get it easily. Okay, so now the thing is that we want these service which we have just exposed using using Tomcat, right? So the service is actually deployed to Tomcat, so we want to consume that service using our Mule flow, right? So now let's have a look into our flow, that is a Mule project. So this is my Mule project which I have created, that is a soap dash validation. As you follow my cursor, so there I have one Mule configuration file, that is the soap validation XML, and if I open that, it is basically this is the flow, right? We need to understand how this has been created. Okay, so if you remember, I have another video where I have shown you if we have the RAML, that is the API specification file. So if we have that file, then we can easily create the flow using that, the scaffolding flows in Mule 4 using that file, right? So this is also the similar kind of similar way of creating the flows using WSDL, right? So what are the steps we have to follow? So just go to file, then new, and before that make sure that you have the WSDL file, right? So it is not mandatory that you get it from the browser or any link, it doesn't matter, but the WSDL file should be there with you. Okay, so for me, as it is local, so for me my WSDL file is here, right? As you can see, this is the WSDL file. So this was created as part of creating the web service, which we just discussed at first, right? So this WSDL file was created, and I can just copy this file and I can paste it here in my local directory, anywhere in my local directory, and we can refer that from the Mule window, right? So if you just select Mule project, and here as you can see, it is import RAML from local file. So if you come here and just if you have to provide a project name, like suppose I'm providing it like sample soap service, right? So I'm providing it like this, and I have to mention the path, the absolute path of that WSDL file. So what I can do is, let's take it from here, and I want to mention it here. Okay, so now if you see, it has automatically taken the service name and the port from that WSDL file, right? So if I click finish right now, then it will automatically create a Mule project, and then it will automatically create the scaffolding flows. Okay, so this is how we can create Mule flows using WSDL file, right? So I'm just canceling this because I have already created the flow. So let me show you what has been generated using that flow. So this is the API main, and in case of RAML we used to get API kit router, but here in case of WSDL, that is soap, in case of soap service, we used to get soap routers. So let me show you. This is API kit for soap, this is the module name, and this is the soap router which has been used here in this flow. Okay, so what is the purpose of using soap router? This will basically route the requests to the actual flow, to the actual implementation. Okay, so in case of RAML, if you think there also the API kit router that was also used for the same purpose. So here also the SOAP router is being used for the same purpose. So how it will determine where to transfer the request? See, as you can see, the flow, when it generated the scaffolding flows, it actually created one flow, that is this is the public flow it has created, that is API-main, which is having a listener as part of source where the event would be received. Okay, And if you see the other flows, those are basically private flows because they are not having any listener at the source section, right? So source section, we don't have any listener here in the private flows. So what kind of private flows are created? So first one is the multiplication and the second one is the addition. So if you think a little bit deep, you will find that these are basically these two operations, right? And if you go to the SOAP service, here also we are mentioning the operation name, right? So based on this value, it will basically route the request to either this flow, this addition flow, or the multiplication flow, right? And let me tell you that when I created this flows using the WSDL, here in the multiplication flow, as you can see, only one transform message component is there, right? So in case of addition also, it was same. So only one. So this transform message component was there. Only this part was there. Later on, I tried to actually implement the addition service. Okay. So it is kind of similar steps we used to perform in case of RAML as well as in case of WSDL, right? So as you can see here also in the Mule, in the multiplication flow, if we go inside the transform message, so it is showing SOAP fault message, and as you can see, it is showing as the operation not implemented, right? So this same message was also there for this transform message, but what I did, I have just changed this, I have updated this code, and so this will now generate a SOAP request message, and which can be forwarded to this consume node, right? So this consume is the operation which comes under the web service consumer module, right? So let me show you how to import this consumer module and API kit for SOAP router, right? So as we have seen in my other videos, right, if we click on this add modules, then from there we can actually select any of the modules which are available there in the palette, and from there we can actually drag and drop at the left side, right? So from the right side we have to drag and we have to drop it at the left side, and by doing this we would be able to get the modules available there. So web service consumer also I have taken like the same way, I have taken it from the palette. So now if you see, web service consumer module is having an operation consume. So this is basically used for consuming any SOAP web service, right? So this operation I have used it here. So what I will do is like, I will consume the Tomcat SOAP web service, I mean the calculator SOAP web service which I have deployed to Tomcat version 9. I will consume that using this consume operation, right? And also if you see, I have also used the same WSDL to create this scaffolding flows. So what I am trying to do is like, I want to make an additional layer before consuming the actual service, right? So it is like the actual service implementation is there, and before that I am creating one more layer using Mule, and I am actually exposing the same service but with an additional layer using Mule. Okay, so it is like this will cover both the things. One is the exposing the SOAP web service using Mule. Also it will cover how to consume the SOAP web service using Mule, right? So let me show you the global elements which I have used. So first is the HTTP listener, that is basically running at port number 8081. Okay, and this is the API kit for SOAP configuration, and as you can see here, I have mentioned inbound validation enabled as true. So I have ticked it. Make sure that you see this, because this one is going to provide us some kind of validations. Okay. Now HTTP status variable name. So this is basically used for storing the HTTP status. And now as you can see, this is the calculator.wsdl file, which is being referred by this API kit for SOAP configuration to route the messages from the API main flow to the private flows based on the operation present in the received request, right? And now we want to see the web service consumer configuration. So this will basically refer to the actual service URL, right? So if you see, this is the actual service URL, and let me show you. So as you can see, this is the actual URL it is referring, and also the WSDL. Actually it needs the WSDL location, so that's the reason we have provided $WSDL. And once we give that, it will automatically take this service name and the port, right? And also the service URL. So now you can think that from this addition private flow, with this transform message component, we are actually generating the SOAP request message. So now if you can see, our service, the Mule flow, is actually listening at port number 8081, right? But our actual service implementation is at where it is at port number 8080, right, where the Tomcat is running, right? So here in this transform message component, I am basically creating one SOAP request message, and the operation, as you can see, it is addition. And here using this consume component, I am trying to call the service in this Tomcat, which is deployed to this Tomcat server, right? Now once we receive a response, I'm trying to log that response, and then again I'm trying to convert the response to the actual format, right? So you can think like there is an additional layer created by Mule, which is acting as a layer which will receive a request from the user or the client, and then it will validate that, because we have enabled the validation here in the inbound validation enabled property. So we have enabled that, so it will validate that, and if it finds that that the request is okay and can be forwarded to the next level, then only that request would be routed to this either to this multiplication or to this addition private flow based on the operation which is present in the SOAP request message, right? And after that, once it gets routed to the private flow, from here we are actually trying to consume the actual web service which is deployed at Tomcat server, right? So this is pretty much I am trying to show you here. So let us for the demonstration purpose, I have already deployed the flows, right? So if you can see, I have already deployed the flow, and here as you can see, it is the terminate is active. That means the flow is already running. So what I will try to do is like we have already seen this actual service which is running at port number 8080, and if you see, this is the URL of the actual service implementation. So this is the actual service implementation URL. This is the actual service implementation URL, right? And we also want to see where the Mule service is actually running. That Mule flow is actually running. So we need to go to listener, and in the listener section we have already seen this is the connector configuration, and if we just click here, we'll find that it is running at port number 8081. And now if you see the path is actually different here. So it is not exactly same to the actual implementation, it is different. So this is the path. Okay, so here is the path, right? So this is the service Mule service path, and this is the actual service path. So Mule services, here it is acting as an additional layer of security, we can say. Okay, what it will do is like it will first receive the request, and it will then validate that request, and if it finds that the validation is successful, then only it will forward that request to the actual service implementation. Okay, so here let us go to this SOAP UI, and we have already tested the actual URL, so let us just test the Mule's service URL. Okay, so I will change this value, so that is suppose 50. I am putting it here, and as you can see, it is giving the result as per the expectation, right? So now let's check if it is doing the validation or not. Okay, so we already know that we have enabled the validation at the API kit for SOAP configuration level. So this is the property inbound validation enabled. Okay, so now let's do some changes to our request message. So what I will do is here in the variables in the second parameter, I will provide the value as suppose W. So as you can see in the actual service implementation, it is showing as it will accept integer values, right? So 2 integer parameter it is expecting, but we are providing one integer here and one is the letter, so it should actually throw the exception. So now as you can see, it is showing as the SOAP fault, right? And what is the details? It is showing as schema validation error on message from client. What is the message? This is W does not satisfy the int type, right? So as you can see, it is properly validating the request, and it is also showing you like what has gone wrong, right? So now I will change the message in another way. So let us put it here 50 and 30, and now what I will do, instead of the parameter name, I will change it from B to, I will change it as B1. Okay, so now if you push the message, it will again throw you the schema validation error on message, and what it will show, B1 is not allowed, right? Possible tag value is what? Possible tag value is this one, right? So this is the string representation of the less than sign, so that's the reason it is coming as here. And so another thing I want to show you is like suppose there is some namespace change. Okay, so here if you see DigiWorld, it is showing as DigiWorld, and let me show you what it actually refers. It refers to the actual package name. Okay, so here if you see digiworld.learning.org, so this is actually used for the namespace, and how it will look like, it will read it from right to left, that is first org, then learning, and then DigiWorld. Okay, so this namespace actually works like this. So as you can see, it is org first, then learning, then DigiWorld. So this is the namespace which is used for this parameters, right? So in case of, instead of using DigiWorld, I will provide it as DigiWorld1. Now let's see what happens. Again it has thrown some exception, and that is the false string it is showing. What is the message? It is the schema validation error on message from client. Probably namespace URI of tag addition is wrong. As you can see, the correct one is what? It is http org.learning.digworld. So as you can see, it is properly validating the messages. And now let's see what happens when we actually disable this property. Let's disable this and we'll just click OK and we will save it. Okay, so I'll just press Ctrl S and we'll see that it will automatically deploy. Okay, so as you can see, it is automatically deploying the code. Let's wait for our app to be started and we will resume again. So as you can see, our flow has been started, and this time it is without this inbound validation enabled property enabled, right? So this property I have made it as unchecked, and this time it will not validate the request as it was doing earlier. So what I will do, I will just do the same thing. I will put it here W, and now if we just click, and here if you see, it is showing as SOAP response as 0. So for W it is giving us the response, and this time it is not showing the actual expected result, right? And this, now what I will do, I will just make it 30. This one I will make it 30, and instead of B I will put it as B1. Again it is giving us as addition equal to 0, right? So what it is doing, like, it is not actually validating the request, right? So now what we will do is we will stop the flow, our Mule flow we will stop, and we will debug this, and we want to see how the flow is receiving the message, and based on that how it is actually forwarding the message to the actual service. Okay, so it is like we have already seen what it was doing, and now we want to just debug the flow once, and we will see what actually happening inside. Okay, so as you can see, we have already deployed our flow, and this time it is in debug mode, right? So what I will do is I will put a breakpoint here. Okay, and then also I will put a breakpoint here also, right? Now let us just what we can do is like let's put some logging here so that we can see the entries. Also the same thing I would be using here also in case of multiplication. So I'm saving this, and once I save, let's just redeploy the application. Okay, so our application has been deployed, so let's test it. So first I will test the actual URL. Let's see if some entries are there. As you can see, it's there, right? So now what we can do is from here, from the Mule request, and I am about to call the Mule service, and which will internally consume the actual SOAP web service, right? So here I am just changing the value. I am making it as 5130. So now if I just call it, then here it has come. So we enable debugger, and now let's move ahead. As you can see, here it is, and if we see the payload, this is the payload which we have received, and it is obviously in Java format. Now we are about to call the actual web service, and here as you can see we have received the response, and the response is also in this format, right? And here also if we see, we'll find that this is the value which has been passed to this this actual service, right? Now if we just move ahead, and we will find that let us see if the response is received. Okay, we don't see any response now. So this time what I will do is I will just, and here as you can see it is showing as socket timeout exception, right? So as we debugged the code, and it took more time, more than the expected timeout. So that's the reason it has thrown these socket timeout exception. So what I will do, I will just trigger once again, and this time I won't go with the debugger. I will just click, I'll just quickly finish this. So now as you can see it is showing as what? It is showing as 0. What is the reason behind it? Why it is showing as 0? Because see, we last time when we tried to check like what is the during the validation, we changed this namespace, right? So as this one is not valid, it's not throwing exception because we have disabled the validation, but this time it is not throwing exception, but it is not also giving the response as per the expectation, right? Because it should have given the addition of two numbers, but this time it is not giving that. It is giving different, it is the wrong response it is getting from the actual service, right? So as you can see here also it is showing as 00 because the due to the wrong namespace the values are not getting passed to the actual service, right? So again what I will do is I have just changed, I am about to change this value. So instead of DigiWorld 1, I am making it as org.learning.digiworld so that it matches with the actual package name, reading from right to left. Okay, so now this time I am about to push another request, and this time what we will see is we will see the expected response, right? So we have just move ahead, and as you can see this is the response which we have received, right? So now let's check what values were passed to our actual service. So as you can see these are the values which were passed to our actual service, right? So you have seen that in case we don't perform the validation at MuleSoft application level, because here what we have achieved is like we wanted to make an additional layer above the actual implementation which will act as like an additional layer of security, we can say, where we can perform kind of validation. So as you can see in this flow, we are actually exposing the same web service, the actual implementation we are exposing through Mule application, and as an additional advantage what we can do is like we are able to perform the validation here, right? So if we just enable this once again, and this time if we just save it, and it will again deploy that automatically, it will deploy. So as you can see it is building the changes, and it is about to deploy that. So our application has been started, and with the this time with the validation enabled again. right? So now in this case, suppose I am pushing another message, and this time I'll make this as 34 and I'll make this as 58, right? And now if I push, then in the Mule flow the debugger is hit. So I'll just move ahead, and we want to see the actual response, right? So as you can see, this is the response, right? So this is the response, and also these are the values which has been passed to our addition operation of this service, right, of the actual service. And now if we want to make some different, I mean, if we make the request with some wrong value, then this time it will be validated, right? So this time I'm making it as again DigiWorld 1, and we'll see that it will throw the exception. And let me tell you that it won't even go inside this private flows. Okay, so what it will do, let's see. So just I have made it as DigiWorld 1, so which will make it as a wrong namespace, and let's push it. And what we will see is, as you can see here, it has come. And now if we just press F6, it should throw the exception. As you can see, it has not gone to the actual private flow, right? So from the router, the SOAP router itself, the response was actually returned, right? So this is the thing I wanted to show you. Also, now if you see, this was the actual service URL. So this one, actual service URL. So here if we go, this was the service URL, right? And now if we go here and just put question mark WSDL, then we will also find the WSDL for the exposed service which has been exposed using Mule. And this is the particular WSDL which the client might require to connect to our service, right? And this is the service URL, as you can see. So this is how we can expose and consume the SOAP web service in Mule. Okay, and I hope this has been helpful for you. And in case you find my effort helpful, please do subscribe, and also please comment in case you have any question related to this. Okay, thank you so much.